So, as a psychology student in training, as I'm studying my degree to transition into mental health services and eventually become a mental health counsellor, I find it very interesting and informative reading some of the comments I receive on my videos, whether they're on TikTok or YouTube. Not usually on Instagram. I don't really get that many comments on Instagram, but it's very enlightening. Not even enlightening. It is very fascinating for me to see how certain groups of people really go out of their way to project their own discomfort at listening to the stories of survivors of religious and spiritual abuse, whether obviously from personal experience. I used to be a Jehovah's Witness, so that's one I talk about the most because I can relate to it from my own experience. But as we know, there's a lot of different organizations and cults that utilize spiritual and religious abuse, and they hide behind the freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and they are kind of law to themselves, and there doesn't seem to be much safeguarding around how these organizations operate. So, reading comments by a lot of people who, in my case, mostly possibly active Jehovah's Witnesses, sometimes it's just going to be like fundamentalist Christians who feel very triggered by the fact that I no longer subscribe to the biblical narrative, that I no longer subscribe to the idea of Jesus or Bible, that I just simply don't believe it anymore. And the vitriol and the absolute emotional outrage that they put in their comments about my imminent destruction in Armageddon, or me being on the broad path, or how they rant at me with Bible scriptures. And psychologically speaking, this is not even about normal human interaction or human reaction to something that's triggering you. This is pathological. And I'm saying that as someone who is learning about brain behavior, attachment styles, development, and how things work. And I can't help but see mental illness being displayed in comments. I'm just going to be honest about it. And as someone who's also struggled with depression, anxiety in the past, but even when I was a Jehovah's Witness, I would never have dared to write some of the things that people write in the comments. Like, you can get upset that maybe I'm saying something that you don't agree with, or you feel like, oh, she's an apostate, she's only saying the bad stuff. There's good things in our organization. Yeah, I'm sure there is, but I'm relaying my lived experience. That was my experience. I'm happy for those who are having a good time, having good experience in these organizations, but I didn't. But that doesn't invalidate my experience. It doesn't invalidate the survivor stories who had less than a good time being a Jehovah's Witness or part of any other high control religious group. But I just wanted to be candid and honest about how it is disturbing and fascinating at the same time to see how much religion, and particularly the biblical narrative, affects people's thinking and behavior to where it seems like they're on a completely different timeline. They're on a different planet, and they feel so comfortable literally attacking, wishing you to be unalived and so happy about the fact that the so-called Armageddon is going to destroy everyone that doesn't subscribe to their beliefs. I mean, how is that different from, I'm not sure what I can say on social media, but how is that different from literal terrorism? Isn't it? It's, I wish they would actually read it back to themselves, what they write, because all I'm seeing is some very, very deep mental disturbances there, and disconnection from reality, what it means. Yes, a lot of times people will write things behind the keyboard, be the keyboard warriors, and we are 4 times more likely to expose ourselves via writing than we are if we spoke to somebody face to face. And I think this is another thing, like if those people are actually in front of us who make this content, and and they find our content triggering, if they actually stood in front of us, would they be able to say those things to our face? I don't know. Some would, but I know a lot of them wouldn't. And it's the suppression of their own discomfort, the suppression of their cognitive dissonance. And that's what I'm seeing, so much cognitive dissonance that they are enraged. They lash out the moment they come across something that triggers their deepest, darkest fears and their doubts, because you do not react so strongly over something you are fully convinced and comfortable in. Just think about it. If you are completely convinced and you're grounded in your belief and you are set in it, then it doesn't matter what someone else thinks or says or believes. It's like I always say, happy people do not feel the need to put others down. So if you're happy within yourself, you're not bothered. It's like, okay, well, live and let live. But when you're not happy, that is when you'll start lashing out and projecting and kicking off. And then, to me, I'm seeing straight through these comments, and I'm thinking that there's more to it. Sometimes I see mental disturbances, other times I'm seeing massive triggers going off in that person's psyche because they can't cope. They can't cope with the admission that maybe they're wrong, or that maybe they are doubting themselves. And it's easier to attack content creators like myself and others who speak about their experiences and share openly their stories. It's easier to attack the outside than look within and to acknowledge that something isn't right. And that's where the cognitive dissonance comes in. That's something I wanted to share, because I feel that we can have compassion for these people. At the same time, there has to be boundaries. Compassion and accountability has to coexist. And I wrote that in my memoir as well, in my book. And I've held myself accountable, but at the same time, I've had to learn compassion, and I extend that to others as well. I can still feel and have compassion, but there's accountability and boundaries that obviously the more I love and respect myself, the stronger they are. So let me know your experience, especially if you're a content creator and you get these attacks and these projections. It's hurtful, obviously, sometimes, but if you feel that there is, there's a place where you kind of have to draw a line and don't take it personally. It's not personal. You can see that these people are projecting from their own discomfort. And that's it for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.